it is our last live Tuesday tip of the month, and we're going to talk about basically building wealth with home ownership. So I always tell people, sometimes when you're looking at home ownership, you have to look at it in the sense of a business decision. So with it being a business decision, or if you're looking at it in terms of just a financial thing, it turns away a lot of way people look at it as. And I say that for the simple fact of that's really the honest God truth of what homeownership is. It's really wealth building tool that you can use in order to make money for you while you literally sleep. So that's what I tell people all the time. Instead of getting into the whole emotional value of home ownership, you really have to think of what it brings to you financially. So a lot of people don't even look at it like that, and home ownership is definitely a tool to build your wealth. And I say that because for my clients who have basically lived in their house for about 10 years and they've decided they're going to move for whatever reason that they have decided to move for, they've walked away on the table with 6 figures as what they've made on the sale of their house. So I always tell people, what is the other way you feel like you can make a certain amount of money in a short amount of time? And it just really took you to basically work for that, or just go home and go to sleep and bam, I've made money in my sleep. So that's basically what homeownership can do for people. And this is just not even talking about buying investment property. This is basically you buying your own home and using it as an investment tool to build your wealth. So this is what this whole topic is today. And if you have questions about it, let me know and we will talk more about it. Join in, tag some people to come in, and we can get to talking about it. So I guess I'm going to ask a question first. And I guess my first question to you guys would be, what questions do you have when it comes to wealth and home building? So I guess, or not even home building, just home ownership. Before I dig deep into it, what are your thought process when I say using home ownership to build your wealth? So just talk to me and I'll answer those questions from there. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit how to do it and how it works. So basically, the way that you build your wealth through home ownership is it's based on this. Your home has what's called equity inside of it. And equity, the equation to equity is your market value, meaning if you were to sell your house today, subtract that from what you owe on your home loan. So even with a lot of my new homeowners who, yes, having equity builds wealth. It's true. So with a lot of my homeowners, especially if they build, you kind of get to walk into the home with equity. And I like using that term when I say walk in the home with equity. It's basically you knowing that your home already has some type of equity into it. And you already know if you just happen to ever have to need some type of funds, you know you can most likely get it out of your house. Now, when I say get it out of your house, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to sell your house at that moment. It means you can go get a home equity loan, or you can get a home equity line of credit. And you can use that money to do different things that you need to do. So for a lot of people, you see some people use their home equity to put their kids to school. For a lot of other people, you see people use their home equity loans maybe to pay off some debt that they have. A lot of people use it to help them refinance their homes. So that helps you build the wealth that you have, and it's extra money that you have to increase your wealth. And so I'll use some examples here. Like I told you, the first example that I used, I had clients that sold their home, lived in there about 10 plus years, made 6 figures on the sale of their homes. And by doing that, they were able to put 20% down on their second home that they had and still have money left over. So I will give you guys like my reasoning on why I love home ownership and what it means to me and why I'm such an advocate for it. So just a background on me. I have a background in community economic development, and when I was studying that, it really came to the point where I would say it really came to the point where I realized a lot of minority people didn't have a lot of wealth because we weren't in the home ownership game. And so for me, I'm like, I have to find a way to make a change from that, because that's one way we build our wealth. That's where we have money hiding at. Like, I don't understand why we're not doing it more. And so I made it one of my missions to, if I could make that something where people know more about just getting into home ownership and what that means to them, I was going to make it my mission to make sure people knew you can really make money by owning your own home. And it's not you necessarily working. So I tell people, I don't plan to work hard all the time in my life. I want to be able to make my money make money for me. And home ownership is one of those tools that you can definitely do. Of course, a lot of people get nervous and they're just like, well, what if something happens and there's a bubble, there's a burst? It's called, those are trends in the economy. Things like that are going to happen. The thing that you have to understand is that it's a short amount of time that those happen. So if that tends to happen, you don't sell your home during that time. You hold it out. And when I tell people that, I'm like, a home is just an investment. It's an investment. It's like stocks and bonds. It's like your 401k. It's the same thing, except you go home and sleep there every night. That's the only thing that makes that different. So what I would definitely tell you from there is, if you look at it at that standpoint and you make it a business decision, it makes it a little bit easier when you think in home ownership terms and you think of it as a business deal. So for me, I was like, I want people to know more about that. And that's another way you can make money without having to work 3 or 4 or 5 different jobs. So I've seen a lot of people sell their houses and pay off some other debts that they had. And now they're living debt free because now they sold their house. They don't have that anymore. Or they're going to move somewhere else. And they can put down a lot more and still pay the same payments they were normally used to making in their first house. So I tell that a lot. And I'm going to go to, I don't know if you guys saw what I shared yesterday on how home ownership, you see a lot of single women home buyers buying homes on their own. And in Dallas, we were like the number 3 city in the country where a lot of single women are buying their own homes. And it's 13.7% was the percentage of that. And what I can say from that is that I have a lot of my friends who are single women. They're always like, oh, well, I'm waiting to buy my house with my husband, which is great. I get it. We all do. Nobody wants to buy their home alone, but I look at it as this standpoint. It's basically you stopping yourself from building your wealth because you aren't married. And that's just my whole point from it. So if you stop looking at it as an emotional investment tied to it and look at it as a business decision, it makes it a little bit easier to be able to make that purchase. You don't have to buy a single family home. You do not have to. You can definitely buy a condo. You can definitely buy a townhouse. You can buy those different things when it comes to home ownership that people don't tend to think about when it comes to what type of home can you buy and what makes a lot of sense. But a lot of women are buying homes on their own. And it's not to say that they don't need anyone to buy their homes on their own. That's just what life is taking them. And so they know that adding a home to your portfolio is just diversifying your assets. And that's mainly what it is, whether you were married or not. It's diversifying your assets. And so when I tell people about building wealth through home ownership, I'm basically talking about using your home to increase your wealth or how much you are worth, and using your home as that value point. So that's basically what we're going to talk about today. And I want you guys to really interact with me and let me know what questions you guys have and how do you see it, or how do you view it? I think that's a good question to ask. How do you view home ownership, and what does it mean to you besides the emotional value that it gives, or just that point of it? So feel free to chime in and ask that question. I'm live on Facebook and Instagram too. So if you see my eyes kind of going through both, it's because I have them right here in front of me, and I'm trying to make them, I'm giving both eye contact. So just know that much. I'm not going crazy when I'm looking at different places. It's just, I'm just trying to make sure I get everybody and get to see all the questions that you guys have. So that's mainly it. So the equity that you have definitely builds the wealth that you have. And that means that's money that you can take out and put into different places and be able to use it for when the time comes through for you to be able to use that. And that's one thing that you can't get anywhere else. Imagine you really making money in your sleep. That's as simple as that when it comes to home ownership. So just know, when I talk about market values, go through that one. I mean, what your house could sell for today. That's what market values mean. Meaning, if you sold your house and you bought it, let's say you bought your house at $150 and you now owe 130 on it, and you've been in the house for 5 years, and that house can now sell for 200,000. That means you have $70,000 worth of equity in your home. Meaning you have $70,000 that you can pull out, do different things with, and use it from there. For instance, I'll give an example of another client that I have. She's about to close on her home soon, and we just got the appraisal back, and she's actually $10,000 in equity that she has, and she has yet to move into the home. So that's just $10,000 based on the sales price. Now, when she gets ready to pay the loan back, she's going to have even more equity from there. So that means, in all essence, she's going to have close to $20,000 in equity that she has just by moving into the home. And that's an extra $20,000 that she did not have to pay into. That's an extra $20,000 that she can add into her home ownership or into her wealth building value. So I know I tell a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, I have Sally Mae or Navient as they call now. And they're like, I have to pay that back. I have to do that. And I always say, I'm not stressing over that, because I have a game plan. I have an investment game plan, and it's really to purchase my own home. And when I'm ready to sell, that's how I pay those debts off. And that's where I'm going to go from there. And I'm able to move up into the house that has this, that, and the other. Like I tell people, the house that I'm building is my first home, but it doesn't have everything that I want in it, because for me at this point, it's just to move into a home and say I'm a homeowner and start gaining investments or start gaining wealth from that. So my next home may have everything like that. And I'll realistically get into a home to start building your wealth in order to get your dream home. Your first home isn't necessarily your dream home. Your second home isn't necessarily that either. But you have to get there to build your wealth to be able to move up along the chains to get the home that you want. So I was reading an article last night, and it was saying that homeowners have 45 times the net worth than renters. So it's saying a homeowner's net worth is approximately $225,000 versus a renter's net worth of $5,000. And that's only because if the homeowner needs money and they need cash, they have to figure out a way to liquidate some cash, and your house is one way to do that. As a renter, you're kind of looking around like, okay, what can I sell? How many more jobs can I go get? What can I do in order to have money to do other things that I really need to do with that? As a homeowner, you have more options. And so the thing about home ownership is, you look at it like this. If you are paying $1,500 a year in rent, you just pay $1,500 a year in rent. Compared to if you pay $1,500 in mortgage, by tax time, once you take out the taxes and you take out the interest payments that you have made, those are write-offs in your taxes. So in essence, it's like you're really paying less than what you paid in a month, and you get that back when it's time for tax time, and it helps deduct a lot in your taxes. So that's why I always tell people, you have to look at the benefits of home ownership and not just really look at it as, oh, this is an emotional investment, I need this and that. And that has that tied into it. I totally get it. But today we are really talking about the business and financial standpoint of home ownership besides the emotional ties to it. So if you have any questions, just type them up, and I'm going to make sure that I answer them to the best I have. So that's basically what I mean with building wealth with home ownership. So I always tell people, when you're going to do it and you're looking for a home, the easiest way to really make sure you make money for you is that you look at the locations and the areas that you decide to buy your home in. So I always tell people, pay attention to what they're developing around the areas. If you start noticing that it starts to boom and start to develop, try to get into it before it actually develops out and it becomes too expensive to live in. But do know that you can still get in some areas, but you just probably won't be able to get into the home that you're looking to get into just because of the price of it. So for me, when I'm teaching clients about where to buy, thinking about location, thinking about where they work at, thinking about the future in this home, I give them that example of look and see what's developing in this area. If you happen to go into a rural area, 9 times out of 10 in DFW, it won't be rural too much longer. So think about those things. Look at what's being developed and look how that affects your resale value, how that affects a lot of things when it comes to the sale of your home. And if you are a client of mine and you even decide that you want to build, the first thing I always tell people too is when you're building, you're putting things in, think about your resale. You really have to, because you want to have a home that if your job transferred you out of state tomorrow, you could easily sell it. And so you have to really think about that, because you have to have location that's desirable. If it's a really great school district cost money, y'all. That's just the honest truth about it. Really great school districts cost money. So in order to be in a really great school district, you're going to have to pay for that. So if you're in a home or you're looking at home in really great school districts, just know, sorry, that was just unclear to me on my Instagram. Just know that it's going to cost a little bit more money, but in the end, when you're ready to sell, that means that people are going to pay money to be in that school district as well. Increases your wealth, increases the value of your home. I also have people that don't like HOAs, and I get it. They try to tell you what to do in your home, how many cars can be here, pick up this, do that, cut your grass, all of that. And it may seem like a nuance to us, but a nuisance to us. But in all honesty, only thing they are there to do is protect your home values. And they want to make sure that your values do not go down because your neighbor across the street decided to turn their yard into a junkyard. And so now it's deflecting your property values. And that's important as a homeowner, is to know what your values look like, what's happening when it's time for you to sell your home, and knowing how much your home can be worth. Like, for instance, I always send out things and let people know about what's happening in the market. How does that affect you? So like I've told people before, Dallas is slowly moving to what we call like a soft market, or hitting back to a normal market, where things are going to start normally appreciating at the normal rate that most homes do. Like lately, we've been seeing homes appreciate for 10 to 15% more than they normally would in a normal year. The average appreciation is 3%. So you will start seeing the 3% appreciation every year besides the 10% appreciation that you have. And by knowing that, it helps you know where your values are going and what you can expect when it comes to building your wealth through your home. So that's the key that I want to take here. I want to make sure that people understand about definitely building your home, your wealth through home ownership. So that means paying attention to things in your home, making sure you notice little leaks and stuff, so it doesn't become a big cost for you later on when you're trying to sell it and they're like, you need a new roof, and you're like, I don't have money for a new roof. Pay attention to the small stuff, because they can become big stuff when you don't pay attention to it. And things like that affect the wealth that you have in your home, because if you try to sell it and you need a new AC, a new roof, that is taking money away from your wealth building process. So I always tell people, it's simple as stocks and bonds. The things that make it easy is that you go and you live, you raise your children, you create your family, you do a lot of things in these homes. And that's what keeps you there, and that's what keeps you tied into the home. It brings this emotional value, but at the end of the day, you're spending maybe 6 figures on a new home, and you're spending thousands of dollars on a new home. So it's very important to know that that's something that affects your home value. So that's something I would definitely tell any buyer about. Paying attention to where you necessarily buy your home at, because that's going to make sense. A lot of buyers these days want 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage. That's a given. So if that's something that you know that you don't need, maybe we should do a townhouse. You know, maybe we should do a condo, but it depends on what your lifestyle is and how we can make sure you get your money back. Another thing that I'm going to talk about when it comes to home ownership and building your wealth is there's something new. I don't know if you guys have ever used like Airbnb and HomeAway and rented other people's houses. I wouldn't say yours, because if you don't have a house, you didn't rent yours. But that's a new phenomenon that's really happening nowadays, that we see a lot of, with people just basically doing that. Like, for instance, my sister has a friend who rents her house out, and she's making an extra side income by renting her house out through HomeAway, Airbnb, and she lives in Arlington, so she lives right by Cowboy Stadium and things of that nature. So people are always visiting the area, and they don't want to live in a hotel. They want to live in a house. So that gives her extra side income that she can use her house for, and it just means she's just not there for maybe like a weekend. So that's a whole opportunity that you get through your home, because you can definitely do things like that throughout your home and get an extra side income that you see physically now more so than when you need it later. So that's the good thing about having a home, is that you get all these opportunities to be able to make money from your home that you wouldn't get to do in an apartment. And those are the different ways to be able to build your home and build the wealth that you make. Like, I had a person contact me and they wanted to buy a condo, and I was like, okay, well, where are you trying to buy the condo at? And we just really sat and talked about what her needs were and why. And then I gave her another perspective. Well, with condos, they're pretty easy to rent out in other cases, such as you can rent them out for a time being, depending on where you stay at. People like heavy entertainment areas where they can easily rent those homes out on the weekend, or maybe just a small smidget in the week, and make money from that. And you see a lot of people really paying the bills and making money using those different terms with their homes. And so I always go through home ownership because it's easy to do there. Besides, if you live in an apartment, you're gonna have neighbors like, hey, such and such are coming in and out, I don't really like that, and then it stops your game. So with the home, that's totally different. It brings a whole different vibe there, and it helps people out tremendously when they're using that tool of home ownership. So that's where we go from building wealth using home ownership. Is one, pay attention to what's being developed in certain areas, so that you can know what's the best area for me to buy, so that when I do need to make a turn and do something different, I know my home will increase in wealth. For me, it was more so, oh, Jesus. For me, it was more so, what's an area that I can buy in that has the quickest return in the shortest amount of time. So if you ever see me post about 380, that's kind of the reason why. It's one of those areas that's just on and booming, and you get your money back and you get a quicker value than you would in a lot of other places, because it's just a growing and developing area. And I'm really hoping and praying that Amazon ends up choosing Dallas as one of its headquarters, because then you have more values in homes now to wherever they decide to build that at. But that's what really helps a lot of people increase their value and make your areas be one of the popular places where people want to live. And if you know anything about DFW, you know that we have a lot of headquarters moving here, which means things are really booming up in like the 121 and north areas anyway, because you have more influx of people needing homes. With more people needing homes, that means more homes need to be available. And if they can't find a home available, they're going to go to new construction. And that's how things happen. And if you have a home that's available, that's very desirable, then that makes it easier for you to be able to sell your home to that individual. So I'm going to take the time to answer some questions. So send me your questions. What do you guys have for me? I'm sorry, my phones and all my connections are starting to die out on me, so I need to juice them up. So if you see me keep moving, that's why. I just need to make sure I have everything for everybody. So I'm answering questions. Give me a question that you have that I probably haven't answered about just building your wealth through home ownership. Okay. I'll answer a question that I always get when people are thinking about relocating to Dallas, and they're just saying, hey, what's the best area for me to live in? And I always say that's always a tough question, because it depends on so many different factors. So one of the factors that I tell people, do you have children? If you don't have children, are you considering having children? Because a lot of people buy according to homes to school districts. So thinking about where you're buying and knowing how the school district is helps in your home values, which helps with building your wealth through home ownership. So if you have children, take the time to learn about different school districts and what they do and how they're ranked and what type of value do they have on that community. Also, think about maybe where you work at. 9 times out of 10, a lot of us don't stay at one job for X amount of years. But if you do, think about that. Think about how far of a commute you realistically can do. So that makes a difference for you. So you know, hey, I can be here for this long because I can do this type of commute and this will be okay for me. And therefore, because I know I can do a 45-minute commute, I'm willing to live out in these areas. So that helps you research basically with those areas, thinking, okay, what does the school districts look like? What's happening in this area? What's new coming here? How does that affect the property values in that area? Like, those are questions to think about, because now you take the emotion out of it and you're really thinking in a business sense, and it's a business decision. Knowing in any business decision, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense, and that's how you should take home ownership as well. Okay. Those are my top tips that I had for today when it just comes to building wealth and using home ownership as a wealth building tool to be able to make money by basically going home, living your daily life, and being able to afford the home that you want, and making sure that it can appreciate in value over time. So I would always tell people, we don't know how much appreciation that the homes will have, but you can kind of start to expect maybe 1 to 3% on average, on normal average. Like I told you guys earlier in the live shot, we've been seeing above average in DFW lately. So homes have been appreciating for 10% over every year. So people have lots of equity in their home. And I always tell people, if you're thinking about selling, now may be the time to sell. Only because this may be the time where you get the most money out of your home, compared to if you wait a few years from now, you might not be able to get the most money that you possibly could have. Now, do know this too, that I always tell people, the best time to sell is when you're ready to sell and you're able to sell and you can definitely make the most from it. But if you've been in a home, the best time to sell at least is 2 years after you've been in a home. And I say 2 years because when you do it in 2 years after the time, it's claimed as income that's not taxed. But there's a rule to that though. It's income that isn't taxed, but it depends on how much profit that you have. If you're a single homeowner, you sell your home and your profit is not more than $250,000, it's not taxed. If you're a married couple and the profit is no more than $500,000, then it is not taxed. But anything over that is starting to be taxed and add this income that you have. So that's something that you can't do by renting. So that's something I definitely want you guys to start understanding and start paying attention to when it comes to home ownership, and thinking of it as a business decision, because that's truly what it is. I know we get caught up, like I said, we get caught up on the emotional value that it has, and that is great. But in the day, you have to understand it is a business decision, and you have to go in thinking of that. Like, where can I go that's going to give me the most bang for my buck? 1. 2, will this home start to appreciate in value over the years? What's great about this area? What's new coming to this area? How are the schools? Even if you don't have children, even if you're a single person, think about those different things, because it is now a business decision. This is how your money makes money for you. And you have to add all those different values into it and those factors into it when you are looking to buy or sell your home. So if you decide to sell your home, you already know, hey, this area is going on. I know people are going to love it. People love this, people love that. You may have to change up a few things when it's time to sell, just to make it more appeasing to a lot of people, not just to one person. So that's the things that people need to look into more when you're looking to build your wealth through home ownership. And that's all I have. If you guys are looking to ask me more questions after this workshop or after this little webinar, feel free to send me a DM just to ask more questions about, how do I start to build my wealth using home ownership? How do I at least get started? What do I need to do to prepare myself so that I can start using this as a second tool besides just using a 401k or an IRA or something other, like something other, like even insurance. Just start to have your investment tools in other places. So start thinking about that. And if you have any more questions, feel free to send me a DM and I will definitely answer you about that, and telling you the different things that you can do and how we can get you started so that you can start transforming your life and adding different assets to it. And I know something that people tend to think, and it's funny, I had one of my bankers tell me this, and it really it's small, but it blew my mind to a whole different level. And one thing that scares a lot of people when it comes to home is how much money that they need in order to buy a home. And he was just like, well, Andrea, you have to look at it like this. And this is what you should probably tell people. When you're putting down money for your home, it's basically you moving one asset to another. So you're basically not liquidating that money, you turn it into something that's like a fixed asset. So it's still your money, it's just going into another place. And when I thought about that, and like I said, I look at home ownership as a business decision. It's a business deal. This is how we do it. And, that's just how I look at it. And so when you look at it that way, you're like, oh, I'm just taking my money out of one place and putting it into another. And that's really what it is. Some people are like, oh, I'm out of so much money. You just moved it and put it into an asset that you now have that costs more. So you just basically invested your money that you had into something that you can have for your children. You can even leave it for your children. You can leave it for your grandchildren. You just moved your money into another asset that helps build yourself more money. And that's what I'm going to leave you guys with today. So if no one has any more questions, just feel free to send me a DM if you just are too shy to send a message right now for everybody to see it. Send me a DM and I will definitely answer any other question that you have about building wealth through home ownership and how to really get serious about making your money make more money from you. And this isn't a get rich quick scheme. It's more so what people have been doing for years and why people lean to home ownership in order to build their wealth. So if no one has any questions, I'm going to be signing off right now, and feel free to hit me up. And if you aren't going to send a DM or anything, or you just want to be able to contact me directly through my phone, you can call me, you can text me. Number's 972-813-9788, and we can definitely talk more and sit in person, and I can go through this very thoroughly with you and what you're needing to do. So with that being said, everyone have a happy Tuesday. This is the last live Tuesday tip, and I have so many more to bring to you in October, and most of my Tuesday tips are just basically things that have happened throughout the business, and I want to share to make sure that they don't happen to other people, or just give out more information. It's usually conversations I've had and I just post it to the masses so people can know more information about it. And that's why I want to do it live, so people can basically ask questions once I post it and let people know. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to be ending it here, and feel free to join me. I will have more home buyer workshops. I'm definitely going to be having one about home for the holidays. So if you're looking to purchase a home, or at least be in a home for the holidays of 2017, we have a workshop coming up. And if not 2017, early spring, early winter 2018, we can definitely talk about that too. So be on the lookout for those events. And I'm going to have another Style Your Home Like a Pro event as well. Basically transition through the seasons, because the holidays are coming and you want your home to be styled for that. So be on the lookout for that, and hope to see you guys soon, okay? Have a great day. Thank you, Shauna. You're welcome.